Evening all, I'm Nat and welcome to Nat Snacker's Yard, or more pertinently at the moment, Nat Snacker's Kitchen, I suppose. What you see in front of you is a carburetor from a 2002 Fazer 600. Now for those that are following the journey of the bike that I've named RatBoy, you'll recognise it. For anybody that's jumped in for a bit of an expose on carbs, or particularly the Fazer carbs. By way of background, got the bike for super cheap. The carbs were minging, absolutely minging. They took a fair amount of cleaning. Whilst I was cleaning them, I ordered a repair kit for it. The repair kit took longer to arrive than expected. So as well as cleaning the body, cleaning the float bowls that were horrendous, through the ultrasonic cleaner I chucked all the bits in as well, just as a matter of course. Got bored waiting for the post and chucked them in and got it running. But that's not to say that it still doesn't need work, and by getting it running, the air fuel screws, which are at the base there, I kind of cadged in because it didn't have the full complement of rubber washers and metal washers, and I'd lost a couple while I was binning them. So I definitely need to put those in. The rest of it is less certain that I need to do it, although I'm taking it apart, why wouldn't I? So let's have a look at the kit then. Got 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, one of them appears to be slightly open. Something has hit the deck already, which is why I'm doing this in the kitchen and not in the garage. So in each kit we have, now these were down as Fazer 600 kits, which is always interesting when you get anything with Chinese handwriting all over it, because that is not the same shape as the floats on that. So what I have done is ordered separate float seals, so I won't be using those because they're not going to fit. I'm not going to throw everything out because I'll be chasing it later, but essentially I've got diaphragm needles, which I'm not sure whether or not I need to change or want to change, because the ones in there are a little bit thicker on the end and are absolutely fine, so I don't really think I'll change that. Air fuel screws, yeah, I'm definitely going to change those. The ones in there are fine, but why wouldn't I? There's the tiny washer, metal washer, and the rubber washer in there as well, which is the main reason I'm still pulling it apart. The idle jet, which again is cleaned up fine on there, so but I will change it anyway. I am slightly concerned over the valves on them, so the little silver badger there, so they will definitely get changed. The jet, yeah, why wouldn't I? There's a load of washers there for the float valve, for the float bowl, and why wouldn't I change them? So what I intend to do is do bits, keep quiet, which isn't my greatest of talents. Keep quiet and just skip through and fast forward. So what I'm going to do right now is, well, first things first, is just take all the float bowls off. Now I have cleaned them very thoroughly indeed. In fact, first thing I'm going to do, because I always forget to do this, is just tighten up the drain valves, because I routinely forget to do this until I've got them on the bike and then wonder why my brand new carbs are pissing perfectly good fuel all over the floor. So this is, so it has been cleaned, it has been ultrasonically cleaned, it has been run stationary. The bike hasn't moved for a number of other reasons to do with the bike, including brakes, specifically the brakes, which I've now fixed as well. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just whip all these float bowls off. Now I don't think these are the original bolts in them, because they're little hex bolts, little Anki bolts, but I am going to keep these because I think they are better than the ones that have come in that kit. but we shall see. Right, I'm going to keep quiet and I will do this. Right, so that's all the bolts, all the float bowls undone. See, not too bad, not fantastic. Like I say, they have just been cleaned, but they've been run again since then, so it's just loosening any bits and pieces from the bike, which is a good thing. I would expect them to look cleaner, but like I say, the bike hasn't been used for 4 years. It's still flushing shite through its system. So it's about as much / good as can be expected. I'm going to whip the floats out now as well, and then we'll start swapping in and out the bits and pieces. Now, to get them out, first of all I need to undo the screw that's pinching it in on each one, and then just lift up the float itself. Right, so that's the 4 screws off, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take these off and stick them to the side for now. Now, when I took them through the ultrasonic cleaner, I really had to douse out the bar across the top there on each one because they were quite heavily soiled. So I don't need to do those again. I'm just going to move them out of the way. I'll keep the float valve with them that don't actually look all that bad, I have to say, the actual valve themselves, the little silver bit. But if I've got the opportunity to swap them out for something new and shiny, why wouldn't I? Now, what I don't have on the valve holder, I don't have one of those in each pack, but what I do have, I think, is a replacement rubber seal for each one of those. So I'm just going to experimentally take one off and pull it out. I might have to run into the garage to get some little needle nose pliers, particularly if I keep dropping things into the housing. Yeah, I'm just going to have to nip and get some pliers. Right, I'm back in the room. Got some little needle nose. Don't need to use tiny ones like these, I just happen to have them. And a gentle pull and hoik it out. Now, what I do have is a replacement O-ring to go onto that. So I think, what shall I do? I think I will remove them all and try and change them all. Right, so that's the 4 of them out. If I just move the carb body out of the way for the second, you can take a bit of a closer look at what they look like. So that rubber O-ring is quite flattened. Now I think in here there are 3 for some obscure reason. Probably because I'm going to rip it several times. So I do have my little pick. Now, I was trying not to destroy it, but obviously not trying hard enough. A bit of carb cleaner. And then a little bit of brute force and ignorance to squeeze on the new O-ring. So do a compare and contrast with the old one. Not sure how much you can see the ridge, but that is a better seal, and it will flatten out to look like that. Now that looks a bit varnished and tarnished in the top there. I'm just going to grab some cotton wool buds and I'll clean as I go. Right, so there we go. That's those 4 clean with fresh rubber on them. I'm going to wait until the very end before I start chucking everything back in, so I'll keep those safely over here. In fact, I've got a bowl off to the side. They can go in there. Right, let's get the carb back again. Now, even though I've cleaned this really thoroughly, you can see that it's had a bit of a re-splurge of stuff. So what I'm going to do is strip them completely, give it a good clean again, and then start throwing all the bits in. So I will do one pseudo live for you, and then probably either just turn you off. Yeah, in fact, that's probably the best way. I'll save a bit of battery that way as well. So let's go for the main jet. So pretty clean actually. I'm struggling to see what size it actually says on it. It's just too far gone to realistically be able to tell, but it's quite a big jet. If I put things I'm not expecting to keep in a separate bowl over there. Right, this is the emulsion tube. Now I need to be very careful with this because there aren't spares in the pot. But we can see that there is the requirement for a O-ring on there, and that is properly squashed back. So down there for now. Take the pilot jet. Now I do have replacements for these. I am not throwing away anything because I may have to revert to it. So I'm not abusing anything, I'm not breaking anything if I can get away with it. Right, and this jet, which I had to look up because I wasn't sure, is a dead end. So it is a solid jet. I was poking around thinking, is that really small, and I've blocked it. It's a dead jet. That's fine. And what I'll also do while I'm here, in this case, is take out the air fuel screw, which is on the bottom there, which I do have replacements for. And they're actually in pretty good condition, but why wouldn't I swap them? Now the whole reason why I needed to do that was because down the bottom, which I'm not going to be able to see because the lighting is good but not that good, should be 2 washers. And I'm going to have to do it off shot because I'm not going to be able to get that out from this angle. So it's essentially, it is a small rubber washer and a metal washer, and it goes rubber, then metal, then needle with spring. So yeah, what you can see just poking out, let me get a pointer, just poking out there is the needle. So that's through the diaphragm on the other side and out the other end, so and attached to, yeah. Now what you will be able to spot now is the difference in profile between the end of that needle and the end of this one. It's much narrower. That needle is actually quite pointed as well, so I think I'm going to stick with the original ones rather than the Chinese copies. Right, I'm going to shut you off and I'm going to do exactly the same to the remaining 3 to give me essentially a bare carb, or certainly a bare fuel side of the carb, because I'll still have the air side, i.e. the diaphragm, attached. Cool. Right, so that is all of the gubbins out. It still needs a bit of a clean. Now the end of the needles look a bit ropey, so, and just so that I don't have to be too concerned about carb cleaner going in places, I am just going to whip the diaphragms off. because the diaphragms are rubber, they are quite fragile, and they also don't react particularly well to being doused in carb cleaner. So I'm just going to use my little electric for speed. I'll probably just fast forward you through this bit. Oh, in fact, no, I'll do one so you can see it. Really hasn't got a lot of torque, that screwdriver. I like using it for stuff like this because I'm less likely to break things. Right, so keep my finger on it because underneath here is a spring. Not enough to fire it through your face, but enough to make you jump. So the spring goes onto the needle and onto the nub there, yeah? Happy, so I'm just going to put that up the back, out of the way so I don't lose it. And just to show you one of the diaphragms, so it's just thin rubber. Fortunately these were fine, there's no rips, no tears, no nothing, but it's worth a check because that needs to be complete. And looking at the needles and comparing them, it's just trying to get in the light there, it's just a twist and pull to get that out there. But like I say, comparing that to the needles that's come through with this, which are a lot thinner profile, I think I'm going to stick with the originals. But now I've got them out, they're a little bit easier to clean and I'm less concerned about where my carb cleaner ends up going. Right, so I'm going to get the others out. I'm probably just going to fast forward you here for speed's sake. Right, so that's all those out. So what I'm going to do is just give this a quick carb clean on this side. Your unofficial sponsors, Hobgoblin this time. Lovely stuff. I'm done on the intake side. On the air intake side, it's just kind of a logical approach. It's just to kind of work your way through and around. So I'm now on the fuel side, which is a bit ropey in some places. So on the inside of carb 1 is a bit ropey. So I'm just going to give that a dose before I get on with fitting the new stuff. So I don't think I'm going to film it because it's just exactly the same. Right, so there we go, nicely dosed, nicely clean, happy. Now the thing to remember is carb cleaner is your friend, drown it. It's not less is more, it's more is more, just go for it. It's stuff, you know, it's acetate essentially, it evaporates. So you're not going to drown it, it'll disappear. The bit to remember though is carb cleaner is moving dirt, it's not necessarily removing it. So if you pull it at the bottom, yeah, it'd evaporate off, but all the crap that you've cleaned off has now just settled at the bottom. So give it a bit of angle, give it a blast, let it flow out, and just go for it. Go down each channel individually, work out, you soon work out what connects to what, because you spray in one, and it will pop out somewhere else, or come up somewhere else. When you're spraying, be slightly cautious. I am, for once, lucky, because I have to wear glasses to see, let alone be safe, but it will splash back at you and it will get you in the face. Yeah, I wouldn't drink it, but you know, you're perfectly safe. Right, let's move that out of the way. For now, let's look at the bits that I'm going to keep using. So I've already replaced the rubbers on the float holders, the immersion valves I haven't. Now before I put rubber on there, it's worth just giving it a bit of a dose over beforehand. So if I grab a bit of kitchen roll, now these have already been done once and gone through the ultrasonic cleaner, but while they're out, why not? I know the holes are fine because they've been done. I just want to get rid of that slight surface element left on them. Nice and clean on the inside. Right, so get access to some O-rings. It keeps tipping out because there's a hole in that sodding bag. Right, I need access to some O-rings. Right, it's on the edge of my sign that I'm ruining with chemicals. Move that out of the way. Again, not intentionally destroying it. Pete. Put on the new O-ring. That looks happier. Right, one down. I'll fast forward through these others so that you don't have to sit through it. Fuel rested against it. That's not bad. Right, so let's start getting this settled then. So what should we go for first? Let's go for the float valves, or the float holders. Right, excelente, that's those in. Let's go for the immersion tubes next, which I've just done down here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try not to get my hands in the way doing this, but there are times when you kind of have to. Right, jets. I can't read that. I think that says 95. No. Pretty sure that says 95. I can't read the old ones, but it looks a similar size. Not a hope of reading that. Too far gone. Right. Got the blank ones with no hole. Right, now moving on. Pilot jet. Right, next. What's next? Floats, bowls. Right, now that's complete. I think I'm going to throw the diaphragms back on first, actually. Right, so that is all of the diaphragms back on. Now the reason I like doing it in that order is because that's a flat surface. There's no other rhyme nor reason. It just gives me a better surface to do the next bit. Right, so what's next? I want to sort out those air fuel screws. So let me just do a compare and contrast of the news and olds. So that is a new one. That is an old one. Let me get one. Let's look at that. So now they do actually look different. They are a different. I know they are the same overall height. Old ones look fine. I'm going to stick with them, I think. How much you can see the profile difference there. So they are the same length, however the needle is longer on that than it is on that. Now, it worked fine on the old one, don't change them, but I do need the spring. I'll use the new springs and I would need the new washers. So what I'm going to do is just sort those out off screen so they're ready to go. Right, so excuse me. So we are set up with one air fuel screw. It's the original ones. I don't like the fact that the other one's different. So I've got screw, spring, metal washer, rubber washer, and the rubber washer, effectively the metal washer, is holding the spring. It's protecting that rubber. So I'm just going to jam it on like that, which hopefully will hold it on. I don't really want to chase these bad boys around my kitchen. Drop it in. Now the setting for, I'll just drop that out of the screen nearly. The default setting, according to the manual for a Fazer 600, is 2 out. So I'm just seating that. I should just see it protruding. I don't know if you can actually see that. Just there, look. Oh, I had it, I've lost it, there you go. Now it's lost focus, there you go. You can just see it protruding out of that little orifice. There. Right, so I've nestled it, but I haven't yanked it because it's only a thin needle, it'll break. So that's half out, 1, 1.5, 2. Right, now I'm probably just going to fast forward you here. Right, this is the point where I nearly try and put the, usually try and put the float bowls on, and I'm forgetting to put the actual floats in. So, floats. Let's get them going. So I've got the float valves that were with it. That actually don't look too bad. They look a little bit crappy, so why not replace them? I will keep the originals over there. Drop that on there. What is next, Nat? Next is the float bowls. Now, these aren't leaking, which is good, but that gasket is very flat against the edge there, and I have new ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably hit the camera when I move this supposedly out of the way slightly. I'm going to try and remember what goes with what, because these are all higgledy-piggledy when I first got it. That's a screw that indicates the idle cable goes with it. You want the screws pointing outwards so you can actually get to them. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, happy. Let me just get a gasket before I start arsing around with ones that I know at least this morning worked. Right, and there we go. Just what I had my hobgoblin. That's a long old process. Right. So what? So that is the carb rebuilt with the kit. Although actually, I didn't really use a lot of it because I didn't really need to. But the bit that I did need, just tidying up in the background. The bit that I did need was the rubber washers and the metal washers under the fuel screws, fuel screws, which is exactly what I needed. So I'm happy with that. I'm slightly surprised the bowls were mucky. Now, it's only been working off a reserve tank, so I think that was crud that was backed up in the pump. So when I attached it to the pump, it flooded out the stuff that had been in there, which is fine because it's now out because it came into the floats and I've cleaned out the floats. So happy. That is me on rebuilding a carb. All I need to do now is just test the diaphragms. Yep, happy. All I need to do now is mount it on RatBoy, which I am not going to do this evening because I don't have an exhaust on it, and I will wake my children and annoy all the neighbours. Right, that's me. Thanks very much all. For those that are subscribed and are following the progress, I hope you enjoyed that little expose. Or anybody that's jumped in to look at rebuilding Fazer carbs, please subscribe and follow and see what happens with RatBoy, the rest of the bike. Cheers all, I will catch you later. Ta-da.